A little higher for me, please.
Okay.
Perfect. We'll take that. That'll do. Thank you.
All right, Joe.
So am I looking there? I'm looking at you.
You look at me.
You just talk with him.
Yeah.
So where are you going?
All right, so this has been a great experience to sit down and talk with so many of these guys. But one of the parts of this book that I want to zero in on, and that's going to be the front, it's the Penn Way. So you come in from Illinois.
Right.
And you get into this school system, and all of a sudden you get into what they call the Penn Way. What does the Penn Way mean coming in?
Well, I think the first and foremost thing that I felt with the Penn Way was family, because I'm an outsider coming in, and the way that I was received, welcomed, and made to feel a part of something special in the program. Now, I had a little bit of an advantage in the fact that I knew Giesman from years past when we used to work at the Notre Dame football camps together. So we kind of had a relationship when I was still out in Illinois, and I'd come in the summer times. So I started to hear stories and understand about, you know, what his goals were, what they were trying to do, but then to come in and be welcomed in and feel like I was a part of it right from the get-go. And then you're in there and you feel comfortable, and you feel like, okay, when it's your turn, you can speak up, and you know, part of the camaraderie you see, they're bringing you into that. That's probably the first and foremost thing that I felt. And then the second thing is just the expectation. I mean, there's an expectation from when you're basically born into the Penn community, and you know, football is a part of the family's life. And you watch the younger kids in the junior highs grow up the Penn Way in the camps, and then the high school and the freshmen in the Penn Way, and everybody knew how to do things. You know, how you walked, how you talked, how you went through a drill, how you concentrated, how you accepted your role on the team, whether you were a starter or whether you were a second stringer or even a third stringer, whether you were a special teamer or not. So everybody kind of knew what to expect. I mean, there didn't have to be a whole lot of talk about it. It was a culture that was built in existence when I got there.
Let's talk about this coaching staff. And you and I have had conversations many, many times about how neat those coaching meetings were, and that they could get hairy, almost to a knockdown, drag-out fight. But at the end of the day, everybody walked away in a unified front that this is what we were going to do. But you were expected to have an opinion. Chris established that. You're just not here to watch. Right. You're here to participate. And he made every one of the assistant coaches a head coach of his own specific area. So let's just talk about the coaching environment.
Well, first of all, being a head coach of your own position, so you felt a lot of pride in that, and you were going to make sure that you weren't going to let the rest of the coaches down and the coaching staff down and the kids down. So you were going to do your due diligence to do your best job in terms of coaching and preparing. Secondly, that you knew that you had a head coach that you were going to answer to, and you also had a head coach that you knew you could get some help from. And then also, you know, sitting in staff meetings and not only representing your position, but also, you know, ideas about how are we going to make this program better? How are we going to win this football game? How are we going to attack this season? And our ultimate goal is to win a state championship. And so you had to be a contributor to that. And yes, you know, there were always going to be disagreements because there's so many ways to do things. At the end of the day, I think we all understood. We had an opinion. He wanted to hear it. We respected one another's opinion, but we only knew we could do it one way. And ultimately, the head coach was going to make his decision, but he wanted information to evaluate before he made his decision. And I think we had a lot of fun. We had a lot of fun poking at one another, too. I mean, you have to take this with a little bit of sense of humor also. Otherwise, you know, when guys get underneath the other guys' skins, they can carry over. But because of the culture there and the sense of humor Coach Giesman has, as we all know, really keeps things in a perspective where nobody's really totally offended.
When you look at the opportunity that was afforded you to come and be a part of this program, you're going to be perceived as an insider and outsider. We've talked about, Jeremy had mentioned that he was never perceived that he was an outsider. He was open with welcome arms, or I think that's what I want to say. Welcome, yeah. So give us your thoughts on coming in and being the new guy, and how long did you feel it took to get situated?
Probably the first beer. When we all sat down and, we'd get together over at between the Buns or Massimo's or the Wings or wherever. They always had a place to get together and break bread. And I think it was the first time that I went with part of being the staff, and the guys just sat down and had pizza and had beers and just talked football and talked life and talked about each other's families. And all the coaches knew all the coaches' families. And so it was, again, that family atmosphere. And it didn't take long. I mean, I've fairly got an outgoing personality, so, once I felt comfortable, I was able to open up and be who I am. And
it's been really neat to see that a lot of the coaches on the staff have seen their own boys come through and be a part of the program. Matt, Tim, Corey's got,
Wes.
Yes, I mean, there are so many guys that are involved in this that have got their kids. So that family, the wives, the moms, it was such a unique family environment. Talk about the family environment.
Well, again, when you're a high school football coach, number one, you've got to have support from home. You've got to have support from your wife, your spouse, your children, because there's long hours, a lot of commitment, a lot of things that maybe you may have to miss. So times together as a family are a lot of times at football events, whether it be the Friday nights or whether it be a practice or whether it be a picture day or whether it be, an evening gathering for a meal and drinks and laughs or a party at a coach's house. I mean, everybody was always together as families. So, wives and kids playing together. And then watching those coaches coach their sons. And I had that distinct opportunity over in Illinois when I had left Penn to take on a head coaching job there. I had the distinct opportunity to coach my own son. And I kept just remembering back of the days when I was at Penn, and I knew what the Yeomans, how they felt, and the West Doys and how they felt being able to coach their kids, and the McCaskills. And so, again, all those memories that I had kind of carried me to who I was and how I was going to handle my situation years later.
Funniest Penn football moment, if you can put one that we could leave off the colorful metaphors, maybe. Is there one or two? Just a couple of them. You got a couple of them that jump off the page. It's like, this is what defines working with Chris and the staff, or this is what defines Penn football, and from the humorous side of things.
Well, from the humorous side of things, I think the funniest story I have, and Coach will agree because I hear him sharing it all the time, was the year that he retired, the first game when we went up to Valparaiso, and that was Corey's first game, and he was no longer there running the offense, running the show, and so my job was to be on the headphones with Trent up in the box, and Trent would run the show from up there, and I would be the relay guy to Geese. And after the game, when our athletic director, Ben Karaziak at the time, came up and just asked me, so how did it feel, the first game without Geese? Because he knew that, Trent and Geese and I were kind of the offensive communication throughout the game. I told him, I said, I can be honest with you, this is the first time in years that I've come out of a game healthy. Because Geese would be very animated on the sidelines, and he had different ways to get my attention or different ways to clarify what I had said, because sometimes he might be a little hard of hearing when I call a play. Or if something didn't work and he wanted to yell at Trent, he had to yell at me to get to Trent. So, there were a lot of those fiery moments on the sidelines. All knowing the perspective of the whole situation, because I knew after the game he was buying the first beer. So I would say that's probably one of my personal most funny stories. I know, at Penn, we've got a number of players, and when we start substituting and we get into that second union, start putting the third unit in, we were playing over at School Field one evening against, I think it was Riley, and Coach Giesman wanted to put in a player. and Coach Wagner wasn't ready to put that player in, and I kind of, you know, and we had the game, I would say, well in hand at the time with a couple minutes left to go. And I saw it as one of my opportunities to push buttons like I like to do, to get some laughs going and get some things fired up. You know, so I started, you know, prodding Geese about, why are we putting him in there? And him and Wagner just started going back and forth having fun, and we ended up putting him in there. And then another kid goes in, and then Geese turns to me and asked me who that kid was, and I turned to Geese. I said, Geese, I didn't bring my program with me today. Didn't you bring yours? And, you know, trying to keep track of all these kids and just keep track of so many different things, especially at the end of games when we're trying to get a lot of guys in and out and stuff. And you know you've kind of won the game, and now you want to relax and have some fun and have some laughs. And so I would have a tendency sometimes to know I could push buttons between Coach Wagner and Coach Giesman to get some laughs.
On a serious note, define Penn football.
Define Penn football. Boy, I tell you, it's one word. I think of championship. I think of success, ultimate success. You know, you've got to have the energy to be successful, and you've got to have the knowledge and the willingness to gain that knowledge if you want to be the best. And so my 12 years there, we were the best in a number of years. And you know, the Penn Way, you referred to that earlier. The Penn Way was built on foundation of building a championship program. And when you're a part of a championship program and you leave that program, you take that to other parts of your life. You take that to your family. You take that to your job. You take that to your community. And you want to carry yourself like a champion and speak like a champion. And that's probably how I'd sum it up from my experience.
Okay, stay there. We're going to get Donnie in here.